Alright, so look what I found. So I got a puncture. I'm not sure if you can see that. It's a little tiny bit of glass. And that's brown glass, which in Australia is a beer stubby, a small bottle of beer. And these bogans just chuck it out the window of the car and it ends up in your tyres. So that's why it's important to always check your tyre. And have a look at the hole it's done. I can tell you now, this tyre, I'm not sure if you can see that, it's just come through the casing. So it's gone the whole way through. So this tyre is pretty well ruined. I've got no choice but to reuse it, it's the only tyre I've got. But when I inspected my tyre, if you come around here, what you're looking for is tears and cuts. See this one here? It's another one. So this tyre I've probably done maybe 2,000 to 3,000 K and it's finished. So you run your fingers, once you take it off, if you can see my fingers here, and if there's anything protruding, I'll feel it. And also my thumbs are on top, and I'm feeling if anything's penetrated the tyre from the top. And that's how I found that bit of glass. Little trick of the trade, if you're at home and you've got nowhere to put your bike, this is the tube that's punctured, and I've just hung it here from the roof. Done, your bike's off the ground. Keeps your chain from dirtying the floor, and it's up around my waist level so I can work on my bike. It's not stable, but a quick fix. Okay, so this is what I carry with me, and this is all wrapped together with a rubber band. And actually I don't carry a saddlebag, I just bang in the jersey pocket. So here I have, and this is on the road, a CO2. A 6mm Allen key, and I'll explain that to you, and a spare tube. So because I've got a modern bike with a through axle, the only way to get it off is with this Allen key. So if you don't carry that with you, and you get a puncture out on the road, you're in all sorts of strife. So I'm changing a tube, it's my spare tube. So I unravel it, release it, and what I do is just with my mouth put a little bit of volume in the tube. See how it's now round? It's holding a bit of form, and I close it off. So I've checked my tyre, there's nothing in it. Now another interesting thing you've got to remember is tyres are directional, which means they rotate a certain way, and it's the way the tread is. And I know what it is, but most tyres, and this is a Maxxis tyre, will have a direction on the sidewall. I'll find that for you. See there? See that arrow? That says rotation, which means it wants to roll that way. So when you think about that, there's your wheel. Your cassette is always on the right-hand side. Cassette's always here. And the tyre needs to go on knowing that the wheel's going to rotate this way. Another little trick of the trade, find your valve hole, which is here. And what I always do is I line up the label with the valve hole. And the reason I do that, if you find something in your tyre, you can work your way back from the label and see where it is so you can pull it out. Okay, so first things first, one side of the tyre on. Really easy thing to do. Okay, so this side's open and this side's on. Okay, you can see I just did that with my fingers. I've already put a little bit of volume in my tube. Find the valve hole, push it through. Okay, and then what I do, if you watch, is I just push the tube in the tyre. See that? And then what I do, and it's a two-hand action, is I start putting the second half of the tyre on. So I'm holding it here and I'm pushing it on. Once I get to this point, I can let go of that. And what I'm going to do is push the tube up with this hand and push it on the rim with this hand. So up, pull on, up, pull on. Okay? Now when you get around towards the end and it gets a bit tight, a lot of people can't do this last little bit, and the reason for that is the whole tyre is gripping around the rim. So if you go the opposite to what's left to go on, run your thumbs down and just separate it, and you'll see that'll just go click on just with my fingers. As simple as that. The next thing you need to do then is push the valve up, because often the tube can get stuck around the valve between the rim and the tyre itself. So push it up and make sure that it's not in the way. And then what you can do if you want to is go around and make sure that none of the tube is stuck between the rim and the tyre. And all I'm doing is I'm pushing it to the side and I'm inspecting. You can't see any tube there. See that? Just work your way around, whole way around. If it is there, you then need to kind of maneuver it and get the tube inside the tyre itself. Okay? And at that point, we can pump it up. If I was on the road, obviously I'd use my CO2, and I might do a video on how to use a CO2 at some point. But because I've got a puncture at home, I'm going to use my track pump. If you don't have one of these, get one. They're so much easier to use. Has a gauge. Okay, so I run these at about 80 psi, and this is the part that goes on the valve. Now this is what's called a smart head. So whether you have a car valve or a Schrader or your high pressure valve, Presta valve, this will work automatically with both. And I'll show you how it goes on. Okay, so you got to make sure that you release it, unscrew it. So I'm going to push down with my palm here, otherwise if I push that up, it wants to lift up. So here, valve on, nice and tight. And then this here, the thumb lock, is what locks the pump onto the valve. It's engaged. Okay? And just pump. Now what I like to do is give it a few pumps. Oh, this has got a puncture. Okay, hear that? So this is good thing this happened at home, not on the road. This new valve, this new tube I've put in, has a hole in it. So, I've got to go to the bike shop and buy another tube. I'll tell you why I think that tube has a hole in it and I've never used it. I put this rubber band around it really tight. And you can imagine the tube's moving as I put it in my back pocket. And over time, it just wears away and it puts a little hole in the tube. So you've got to be really careful of that. You can only really carry a spare tube for a couple of months and then you really should inspect it. So that's why that has a hole in it. There you go. I've got the wheel off the bike. Now I need to get the tyre off. Now normally you would have a tyre lever. I know I don't need that for this particular tyre and rim combination. And the tyre levers, you hook them under the tyre and you lever it up. And then just gets part of the tyre off and you make your way around. But with this particular one, it's really soft. And what I can do is I can pull it up. So see how I'm pulling it up? So pull up and then I push to the side. I'll do that again. Pull up, push to the side. Once I get to there and the tyre has gone beyond the rim, is I can get my palms into the tyre and I just pull it off. time to put the wheel back in the bike. Now this is great for the bike to hang on whilst I'm working on the wheel, but I prefer to put a wheel in when the bike's on the ground. So you always got to make sure first that the chain's on the chainring. I've got a weird configuration, I only have a single chainring, no derailleur. So you've got to line the chain up to the teeth. It's called a narrow wide ring. Alright, this is the bit a lot of people have trouble with. So you need to get the chain, the top of the chain at the top of the cassette, bottom of the chain at the bottom of the cassette. And then what I need to do is line the chain up with the small cog. Now this gets a little harder because I got disc brakes. So you also need to make sure that it lines up on this side. But that just dropped in. Okay, so a modern bike has what's called a through axle. So it's not a quick release. So we come in from here, you push it in. If you have a look on this side, there's a thread. And it actually literally screws in. So I grab my 6mm Allen key, and from this side, and sometimes it takes a little bit till it grabs. So sometimes a little bit of maneuvering to get it to grab, and it's going. And I literally wind it in. And I find if it's not really tight, it creaks. So personally, I do it really, really tight. It's ready to go. Another thing you can do then is just check your gear. So your body can be a work stand. So what I want to do, so I need to lift the back wheel up and turn the cranks around so I know that the chain's on properly. So what I do is I go here, I put the seat behind my neck, stand up a little bit, suddenly I'm a portable work stand, and just check the gears. Make sure everything's good, and make sure your brakes work. Make sure that the rotor and the brake pads aren't rubbing, which they're not. And I'm ready to go riding. Not ready. And next, spares pack ready, because I'm going riding in the morning. And I had to actually buy 2 tubes then, because the one I put in had a puncture also. So the 3 things I have: my CO2, I put that there like this, my 6mm so I can get the wheels off, I tack that under there like that, I get a big rubber band and just put it all tight together like so. And I also use a second rubber band, and I actually just put that one around the tube so it doesn't unravel. And tomorrow when I go for a ride, jersey pocket, away you go.